Thank you, everybody. It's very nice to be here and be in front of you. And I do really, truly like the question of whether NFTs are hype, hysteria, or here to stay. Um, in 2019, as mentioned, last time we were actually together at Codex. We launched our first sports digital collection with Arsenal men's and women's team. And I didn't mean to tease you with a beautiful picture of a hamburger here from Five Guys, but it's relevant to the story that my business partner, Simon, and I, we were together in a Five Guys and talking about all the changes that were happening, technology everywhere. And in fact, we said, you know what? In sport, it hasn't changed that much. And Simon reminded me that I was involved heavily in Formula One back in this day when Michael Schumacher was a multiple world champion and stuff like that. And that photo now is used by Netflix. I'm still trying to sue them because they pay Michael, they pay his wife, but they don't pay me to use this photo. But that's another IP story. But we were talking about it. We're saying, you know, what is the issue? When we started talking to tech companies, and they didn't know a lot about sports and how to get into sports. And we talked to a lot of sports companies, and they weren't maybe committed to the tech space. So we thought we had to do something. And I only give you that background so that you know why I feel confident talking to all of you about whether it's hype, hysteria, or here to stay. You know, I've seen a lot of explanations of non-fungible tokens just to put us all on the same page. And like the lady in the photo, it can make your head hurt when somebody uses all those different phrases and everything like that. You can really get yourself confused. And so what I like to do is I like to slow it down a little bit. I like to say, let's just take it at its basic root, you know. If it was anything, it might be a little bit like the old trading cards and put it together with Red Bull. It gives you wings, right? Red Bull gives you wings. It lets you do different things in life. It lets you explore different things. And that's really the concept you should have as a base. It goes from there. And it's more sophisticated than that. But if you take that as your base concept, you'll really be able to build from that point forward. The hype, you know, for me, NFTs, they are here. And we saw Sebastian talking earlier, and he's a friend, and I belong to the Blockchain Gaming Association for many years. I actually think the Metaverse people have stolen the hype aspect because I see more hype around the Metaverse right now than I see around anything else. And so I've kind of gladly handed the hype aspect off to them. But you still might see headlines like this that might make you think, hey, wait, there's still some hype around NFTs. You might still some things going. But I really think that it's on the downside, that NFT hype is really, truly on the downside. But I came across some things recently. I thought, you know what? The Detroit Auto Show that was just less than 30 days ago, the power base of all the car companies, you know, the big American engines, two-thirds of the conversation coming from that auto show was about electric engines and electric cars and everything. So is that hype? You know, is that the start of hype? What about TikTok? You know, you can't turn anywhere without anybody saying, hey, do you know that TikTok, more hours per day are spent on TikTok than Facebook and Instagram combined? So is that hype, right? Or is that, where is that? What about CBD? You know, it's been going for a while. It's medical marijuana. You know, is it hype? You talk to people that utilize it and they tell you, no, it's real. It helps. It absolutely helps. You know, and what about, we've been talking around the fringe on the cryptocurrencies, and there's about 20,000 plus cryptocurrencies out there. Of course, they've had a little bit of a downswing lately, but does that mean it's over for them? Does that mean the hype is there? Does that mean they're here to stay? Maybe not for all of them. And then I don't know how many coffee drinkers there are in the room. I'm not one, but if you like a pumpkin cafe latte or whatever the heck it is that happens at this time of year, but it's in my face everywhere I turn and I don't like it. So I have to say, it's here to stay. It's more than hype. But I give you those examples just to put in context the thinking behind hype, hysteria, and whether things are here to stay. And I think if you have a community and if you have a bit of art, then, you know, there's a little bit of hype around that when you're getting into that. But that starts to build on things. But it leans then towards the hysteria aspect, right? And the hysteria aspect for me is kind of formulated by this slide right here. In this slide, a bunch of details and facts that came together from some recent surveys about the entire NFT sector. And I could probably pull apart and pick apart any one of those data points. By the way, they're all for 2030 projections going forward. In an industry where there's no playbook, in an industry where nobody has a track record, a few people got together and said, this is what's going to happen going forward. And I thought that was very brave, and congratulations. But I could also pick it apart. But that's not, you know, something that's specific to the NFT sector. So you have to think yourself, you know, if I can do that, does that make it more hysterical than maybe what it should be. This is an example that some of you may or may not be aware of. It's from NBA Top Shop, created by Dapper Labs. If you're not familiar with Dapper Labs, they're the CryptoKitties people. They built the Flow blockchain, an alternative to some of the blockchains that are out there. Full disclosure, they're also an investor as of 6 months ago in my company. But they're a powerhouse, right? This is something that they developed, this kind of 2.6 million% growth rate over this period. I actually think it was this growth rate that made the hysteria factor come into NFTs, because I think people underestimated how hard it was for the Dapper Labs people and NBA Top Shop to get to this point and to build to this point. And they all came rushing in, and everybody wanted to participate, and everybody wanted to do something with it, and everybody thought it was easy. And so a lot of hype and hysteria came in at this point based upon the success they had over this period of time, which quite frankly is a short period of time to get to more than $220 million in transactions just in 1 month. The hysteria for me is always, though, it centers around art. And for those of you who are more educated than I am on art, you know that art brings hysteria with it because it's subjective, because everybody's got an opinion on art. People like this, they don't like that. I get this, I don't get that. And so when you bring art into NFTs, it heightens the hysteria, in my opinion. It brings it further forward. Whether you think this was worth 69 million or not worth 69 million, quite frankly, it doesn't matter. It only matters to the person that paid 69 million for this piece of art. I do believe, though, very strongly that NFTs are here to stay. And you would imagine that as somebody that's been in the sector for such a long time. But why do I think that they're here to stay? Well, we don't have enough time within the 15 minutes allowed to go through every single reason why I think they're here to stay, but I'll just touch on a couple of the top line things. First and foremost, I do think that the added utilities that are coming, that are happening, we have, in fact, in our own app now, something we call game day utilities. So it ties it to the performance on game days of all these sporting activities and stuff. We also have personalizations that are coming in so many different projects all around the world that I think that's a very big factor that people really want to hear and people really want to have. You heard Sebastian talk about a little bit with the Metaverse, the creator economy you're aware of. It's a big part of the NFT sector. It's a big part of how people build and grow through that sector and do the different things that they do. And I actually think, and I'd love to debate this point, I think NFTs are the key to the Metaverse. And why do I think they're the keys to the Metaverse? Because I think that before anybody gets to the Metaverse and there's mass adoption in that Metaverse, I think they need to play around with NFTs for a bit. I think they need to engage with NFTs for a bit. I think they need to move and work with NFTs for a bit. And I think that's what'll build it, and that's what'll make it here to stay. This slide shows 9 things that I think it will really, in the sports sector, really will drive it home. Here are 9 of the biggest, if not the solely biggest, sports bodies around the world. And what have they done within the last 14, 18, 24 maximum months? They've all launched very comprehensive NFT campaigns towards their global audiences. And why did they do that? Well, some of it is because of the growth, the hype, and the hysteria. But a lot of it is because they recognize that they have these digital fans that are around the world that are never going to come to their stadium, that are never going to attend a match, that are going to have to be engaged with their sport, with their team, with their players, somehow, some way, through the relativity of digital connectivity. And if you take each one of those, and there are hundreds of millions of fans that they have, you're really going to find out quite quickly that the mass adoption is going to come. Right now, I think the market is filled with a lot of people that were what I like to call crypto rich, but cash poor. They needed to spend that cryptocurrency somewhere and needed to do something, so they came into the sector. They moved into the sector. There weren't a lot of sports fans. And that's why our niche that we built, we started appealing to those sports fans, because we know that they spend well over $4.5 billion on sports memorabilia, whether that's t-shirts, caps, jerseys, anything like that, tickets and stuff. And we knew that if they had something else to do, had something else to engage with, that they would probably move into that sector. And that's what these 9 organizations also represent. They saw the same thing happening and the same thing coming down in that way. So when they're here to stay, I think 3 things will build together. I think it'll be first be built around a community. That could be a macro community. That could be a micro community. And there are so many micro communities that'll bring this richness forward. I do think honestly that art will play a part. And again, art being subjective, you may not like it, I may not like it, but somebody else is going to like it. And they're going to think that's the winning goal that I want to have. That's the artistry of the kick, the artistry of the save that I want to have. I do believe that sports will be first and foremost the one that drives this to mass adoption, not just because of the 9 groups that I showed earlier, but because they have an established community of people, that really spend a lot of time together, that like to stay connected, that are probably TikTok-like, and that they spend more time in their daily lives on this activity than any other activity. And so what does that look like? How do you bring that together? Well, I did bring one example that I wanted to show you today, just so you could get your mind around it and stuff. And I'd like to show that to you right now, if I may.
So many of us collected cards when we were kids. This is today's card collecting app. You will be able to keep these cards, trade these cards with your friends on your mobile devices for the rest of your life.
We thought that this was just a unique opportunity for our student athletes. The opportunity for them to be able to have an NFT right on their phone, their own digital trading card.
Hey, it was a different type of vibe, man. Like the station that we had out there, the NFT station, Orange Auto, a lot of the boys like to show out. They like to show their personalities, and I'm the same way. I like to show my personality. That was a good way to do it.
This is exciting. I feel like it's most involved and most entertaining. It's cool to bring out your personality because people don't get to see it a lot. So being an athlete, being able to show that is awesome.
I mean, it just captures movement, just like a picture doesn't tell the whole story. I feel like this tells more of like who the athlete is. You get to kind of see the personality. I mean, fans only really see what the competitor is like on the court in life, so you can kind of see a more personal, goofy side, or just see what the athletes are about.
In some ways, we had no idea what to expect. As you walk in here, you're able to witness the student athletes showing their personality, having a little bit of fun.
Fan experience is paramount to us. And for so many years, that focus was just on the in-game experience. By partnering with Fantastec and having this NFT program, not only do we enhance your experience inside the stadium, you can interact with our players and our brand every single day of the year on your mobile device as a collector of NFTs.
And that's been our most recent pivot that we did over the summer, is we went to US universities where student athletes for the first time ever could start to earn income while they're in class, while they're on the sports fields, and they could make money. And the smartest way for them to make money, quite frankly, is through NFTs, because they don't have to spend any more than the 5 minutes you saw spending with us in front of our green screens, so they could develop their own personal NFT. I know we're going to go after the next speaker for any questions on that, but hold any questions, because I'm happy to answer anything in any area that you want to do. I was trying to end exactly at 000, but you can tell that I didn't get it. So I won't win the watch today. Maybe somebody else will win the watch today for doing that. But I wanted to thank you for your time, and hopefully you have a better understanding of why I believe, and I hope many of you now believe, that NFTs are here to stay. Thanks very much.